In this video, I'm going to share 5 things I like about the neighborhood of West Cambridge. Stay tuned. So West Cambridge is a residential neighborhood of Cambridge, Massachusetts, located mainly to the west of Harvard Square, and it's home to 18,000 residents. It's a low-density residential neighborhood, and it includes named neighborhoods: Harvard Square, of course, Huron Village, Observatory Hill, Larchwood and Coolidge Hill. These are all part and parcel of what you can consider collectively as West Cambridge. And I have a separate video on Harvard Square, so I'm going to leave that to one side and share with you generally 5 things otherwise that I like about the neighborhood of West Cambridge. Number 5, Fresh Pond. So Fresh Pond borders on West Cambridge. It's not entirely found in West Cambridge, but that portion of Fresh Pond that includes Kingsley Park, you could see on the map as part of West Cambridge. And I love Fresh Pond. It's a 155-acre kettle hole with a perimeter path that runs around the pond. It's 2.25 miles in length. And I love walking around Fresh Pond. My family and I often do so. And many Cambridge residents as well enjoy it. In fact, many people who live in West Cambridge take advantage of Fresh Pond. You park in front of Kingsley Park, or there's a second parking lot on the other side of the Cambridge Water Department facility at Fresh Pond. And you can take your dog off a leash to walk around the park. You can ride your bicycle. You can just walk around the pond. And Kingsley Park is this great open green space where dog walkers like to gather. And in the winter, families come and kids sled down the hill. It's really a gathering place for the city of Cambridge, West Cambridge residents, and it's just such a resource. We find when we walk around the pond like we've left the world behind and enjoy watching the wind blow over the water and through the treetops, and enjoy the plantings along the pathway. It's just it's a shot in the arm and a place to connect with nature amidst the heart of the city. So it's just right there on the doorstep of West Cambridge, bordering on the neighborhood, and it's just fantastic. Can't say enough good things about Fresh Pond. It works for me that the parking at Fresh Pond is by permit only for residents, since I can find a parking space as a Cambridge resident when I arrive. I know for out-of-towners, it is frustrating that it's parking by permit only at the pond, but there's places one can park nearby and find your way on foot to Fresh Pond if you're coming in from out of town. Number 4 on my list of reasons I love West Cambridge is the Buckingham, Browne, and Nichols School, otherwise known as BB&N, and it's a pre-K through 12 independent school with 3 campuses in West Cambridge. So the lower school campus is found on Buckingham Street. The middle school campus is found on Sparks Street, and the upper school campus is found on Jerry's Landing Road. Myself, when I was a student back in the day, I attended an independent school in the Detroit area. And then prior to becoming a real estate agent, I was an independent school teacher, and our daughter then attended an independent school. So I've always had a lot of appreciation and respect for independent schools. And it's really wonderful that Cambridge, West Cambridge, is home to these 3 campuses for BB&N. They have 1,000 plus students who hail from more than 75 towns in the greater Boston area. But many West Cambridge families enjoy the luxury of sending their children to BB&N schools, and then kids can walk or bike to school. So But the campuses are just a great part of the West Cambridge urban neighborhood fabric, and Cambridge is lucky to have BB&N as an independent school in the community. Right next to the BB&N Upper School is the Shady Hill School, which serves students through grade 8. So that's another wonderful independent school in West Cambridge. Third on my list for reasons I love West Cambridge is High Rise Bakery and Cafe on Concord Avenue. This opened in 1996, and I remember when it opened because prior to it becoming High Rise, it was a Mannix liquor store. So major shift in the energy with it becoming the High Rise Bakery and Cafe it is today. And of course, they're baking bread on site, and in addition to bread, they have sandwiches and they make wonderful dinners, and they sell coffee and wine. My family is fond of the chicken dinner that you can pick up in the late afternoon, and it's just such a wonderful bakery and cafe. I've made a video about High Rise, and I'll include a link to it below, and you can learn more about it by watching that video. But it's a place that local West Cambridge residents come to and enjoy on a regular basis. And I think any neighborhood that is blessed by an authentic cafe and bakery is lucky, and West Cambridge is lucky to have High Rise Bakery and Cafe. Second on my list is the Brattle Street neighborhood. So Brattle Street is the most famous street in all of Cambridge, and it was known as Tory Row before the American Revolution. And at that time, many loyalists to the crown had built mansions on Brattle Street. As it happens, these mansions, for the most part, still stand and have been complemented over the years by many others. And so the neighborhood is filled with some of the biggest, most beautiful homes in all of Cambridge. What's interesting is Brattle Street itself is a pretty substantial street. It has a yellow line and traffic moving in both directions on a regular basis throughout the day, including some sizable trucks. So it's not a quaint, quiet side street. It's a major thoroughfare. And so it has a democratic spirit in this regard, in that it's being used and employed by everyone throughout the day traveling through West Cambridge. It is a main thoroughfare. But then, of course, on the other side of the sidewalk, set typically back from the street somewhat, are these substantial homes. I've had the privilege of listing several over the last 20 years, and they're wonderful. And for the most part, the owners are maintaining the homes, and they're beautiful. And then not just Brattle Street, but then there's these famous side streets off Brattle Street, streets like Lakeview and Fairweather, Channing, Lowell, Appleton, and Sparks, among many others, that define the Brattle Street neighborhood. Brattle Street, this neighborhood, West Cambridge, is known by the zip code 02138, and there's a reason it's the most famous zip code, for it includes this neighborhood and all these very special homes. The Longfellow House is found on Brattle Street. It's a museum, and it's very well maintained, and it's where the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow lived once upon a time. So it's now maintained by the National Park Service as a museum, and it's a wonderful resource for the community. First on my list for West Cambridge, and the reasons I love it, is the Charles River, which borders West Cambridge. And you can think about the Elliott Bridge in front of the BB&N Upper School campus, and the Cambridge Boat Club right on the Charles River, serving many who row daily on the river. And then the winding Charles River bordering on West Cambridge finds its way to the Anderson Memorial Bridge, which takes JFK Street from the Harvard Business School through to Harvard Square. And the Harvard boat clubs are found near this bridge. But basically, the river is such a felt presence in this portion of the West Cambridge neighborhood. There's there are some substantial brick buildings along this stretch of the Charles River, where people who live in these buildings enjoy lovely views onto the Charles River. There's the JFK Park at the corner of Memorial Drive and JFK Street at the sort of corner, if you will, of the West Cambridge neighborhood. And that stretch of Memorial Drive on the Charles River in West Cambridge is closed to traffic during the warmer months so that people can go down and enjoy it on foot or by bicycle or with a stroller or with a pet and not have cars. And that's a Sunday afternoon tradition on the river in West Cambridge in season. So it's interesting that this list of 5 things I like about West Cambridge begins with water at Fresh Pond and ends with water at the Charles River. And it's just nice to be near water. And West Cambridge is lucky to have water on 2 of its boundaries and so readily available and accessible to the neighborhood as resources. And look, even if you're just driving down Memorial Drive in West Cambridge along the Charles River, it's invigorating. It's just wonderful to see the water, to be near it, and if you're fortunate enough to get out for a walk, to really just appreciate it at a slower pace on foot. These are 5 things I love about West Cambridge. I'm a top residential real estate agent and have been for 20 plus years. And I've helped many buyers and sellers in West Cambridge, as well as the other neighborhoods of Cambridge, find their home or sell their home. So if I can be of service to you in buying the right home or selling for the best price in West Cambridge or a neighboring neighborhood, please reach out by text, telephone, or email. I'm in contact on a daily basis with people who are looking to move to the area. I lived in West Cambridge for a number of years on Lexington Avenue. As a real estate agent, I'm in West Cambridge each and every day of my life. And so I know it very well. I love it very much. And I'm happy to help you better understand it as you give due consideration to the possibility of moving to West Cambridge. My name is Charles Cherney. Reach out at any time, and I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.